let's look at finding x and y intercepts for a group of functions. So first of all, the y-intercept, set x equal to 0. What are you going to get when you plug in 0 to this function? F of 0 is going to be 0 squared plus 14 times 0. Those are both 0 plus 33. It's going to give us 33. So our y-intercept is 0, 33. Or y-intercept is 33. X-intercept, we're going to let the y value equal 0. So set y equal to 0, we get 0 equals x squared plus 14x plus 33. So I'm going to multiply to be 33 and add up to be 14. So I either have two positives or two negatives to multiply to be a positive 33, but in order to add up to be a positive, they both have to be positive. So 11 times 3, or 11 plus 3, gives us 33 when we multiply, or 14 when we add. So my x-intercepts that I get from this, what makes 11 plus, or x plus 11 0 would be negative 11. And what makes x plus 3 0 would be negative 3. Or as points, we would have negative 11 comma 0 and negative 3 comma 0 as our x-intercepts. Those are the two x values we can plug in and get a y value of 0 out. Next one down here, we're going to do the same thing, find y-intercepts. So let's make x be 0. You'd have 3 times 0 squared minus 8 times 0, those are both 0, plus 5. Our y-intercept is 5, or as a point, it's 0, comma 5. Not too bad to plug in x as 0 and find your y-intercepts. For the x-intercept, though, we're trying to factor this 3x squared minus 8x plus 5. We could try to pull out a greatest common factor of 3. That would be really helpful if we could do that, but we can't. So we're going to do some factoring by grouping. So we have 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is going to give us a multiple of 15. So we want to multiply to be 15 and add up to be negative 8. So we're going to have to multiply together two negative numbers to get that positive 15, but add up to be negative 8. So our numbers are going to be negative 5 times negative 3, multiply to be a positive 15, and add up to be that negative 8. So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to say we have 3x squared, and I'm going to do minus 3x minus 5x plus 5. That way, instead of having negative 8x in the middle, I have negative 3x minus 5x, which is also negative 8x. So now I want to factor by grouping. I want to just look at this first group. What can I pull out of that 3x squared and negative 3x? So I put the 3 first because I saw there was a 3 first in the problem. So those 3's can go together. We can pull out a 3x. 3x times x gives me 3x squared, and 3x times negative 1 gives me that negative 3x. For my next group, I have negative 5x plus 5. So I could pull out a negative 5 times x would give me negative 5x, and negative 5 times negative 1 would give me that positive 5 at the end. So my factoring is going to be the first part, that 3x minus 5, times these common factors, x minus 1. So there's my factoring by grouping. So I can see that one of my x-intercepts is going to be positive 1. And then my other one, I might actually have to set it equal to 0. What makes 3x minus 5 equal 0? It's not as obvious as what makes x minus 1 0. So I'm going to do some work off to the side. I'm going to add 5 over. So 3x equals 5. And then I'm going to divide by 3. So x is 5/3, or x is positive 1. As points, x is 1 would give us 0, so would x is 5/3. That would also give us 0. So those are my two x-intercepts. I had to do some factoring by grouping to get there, but if I'm ever unsure, I'm going to plug back into the original function in my calculator, and make sure that when I plug in 5/3 and 1, I really do get 0 out for my y value. Moving down our list, we have another quadratic. I want to find the y-intercept by making x 0. If I plug in 0 for x into this, my y-intercept is going to be -60. Because when you plug in 0, your y value is -60. Not too bad to find a y-intercept. My x-intercept, I'm going to let y be 0, and I'm trying to factor x squared plus 4x minus 60. So I want to multiply to be a -60, which tells me I must have a positive times a negative. And I want factors that differ by +4. So the bigger factor is going to be the positive one. So if I do 60 minus 1, they would differ by 59. If I do 30 times 2, that would be good, but 30 minus 2 is 28, so that's not it. If I do 15 times 4, 15 minus 4 is 11. If I do 10 times 6, 10 times 6 is 60, but 10 minus 6, that does give me 4. So 10 minus 6 gives me 4, and 10 times -6 gives me that -60. So my x-intercepts, what makes x plus 10 0 would be -10, and what makes x minus 6 0 would be +6. So as points, we have -10, 0, and 6, 0. The two x values I could plug into the equation and get 0 as my y. If we look down at the next one, we're going to find x and y intercepts again. But we have a different looking function. It doesn't change how we do our work. Our y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 to this. When you plug in 0, you get 20. So our y-intercept is 0, 20. When x is 0, y is 20. And then our x-intercepts, we are going to set the y value equal to 0. So we're going to have 0 equals -4x squared plus 20. So I have a binomial, not 3 terms, I only have 2. So I can try to look for a difference of 2 square numbers, but these are not subtracted and 20 is not square. So instead, I'm going to pull out a greatest common factor. So I'm going to pull out the biggest number and least power of x that I can. So the biggest number that goes into 4 and 20 would be pulling out that -4. And the least power of x, I only have an x squared, so I can't pull out an x from both terms. So I'm going to have -4 times x squared is -4x squared, and -4 times the -5 gives me +20. So I can't make that first factor 0. There's no way to make -4 0. -4 is always -4. But I can try to make that second factor 0. I have x squared minus 5 equals 0. I'm going to add 5 to both sides and get x squared equals 5. And now the last thing I need to do is take the square root of both sides. But when I do, I have to remember, when you take the square root of a number, you always do plus or minus that number, right? The square root of 4, it could have been 2 times 2 or -2 times -2. So it's plus or minus 2. The square root of 100 could have been +10 times +10 or -10 times -10. So the square root of 100 is plus or minus 10. So our x here is going to be either positive square root of 5 or negative square root of 5. Both those numbers would square to be root 5. So we have two x-intercepts. So we have root 5 would have a y value of 0, as would negative root 5. There's our two x-intercepts. Just remember, if you take plus or minus, or if you take the square root, it always has to be plus or minus a number in there. So last one, doing the same thing, finding y-intercepts. Not too bad. Make x 0. The y-intercept is 27, or 0, 27. When you plug in 0, y is 27. The other way around, x-intercepts, make the y value 0. You have x squared minus 12x plus 27. I want to multiply to be a positive 27, so I either have two positives or two negatives, would multiply to be a positive. This one has to be two negatives, though, because we want to add up to be a negative 12. So I would have -9 times -3 would be positive 27, but add up to be negative 12. What makes x minus 9 0 would be a positive 9. What makes x minus 3 0 would be a positive 3. There's my two x-intercepts. Or as points, I could write them as 9, 0, and 3, 0. The two x values I can plug in and get 0 out for a y value.